Everyone in the small town of Haven Creek knew to stay away from the forest after dark. They spoke of a strange presence lurking in the trees, something unseen, but always felt. But this is the story of Sarah, a woman who didn't believe in ghost stories, at least not until she had to face the whispering shadows herself. Sarah had always been a skeptic. She didn't believe in the supernatural, dismissing the tales of haunted forests and strange occurrences. So when she inherited her grandmother's old house on the edge of the forest, she thought nothing of it. The house was isolated, old, and covered in dust, but Sarah saw it as an opportunity to start fresh. What she didn't realize was that her grandmother had lived so close to the forest for a reason, a dark secret she had never shared. The house felt off. There was a heaviness in the air, a stillness that made Sarah's skin prickle. But she brushed it off as the typical unease of being alone in an unfamiliar place. After all, it was just an old house, right? While cleaning, Sarah stumbled upon an old journal. It had belonged to her grandmother. Flipping through the pages, she noticed a recurring phrase written again and again. "Stay away from the shadows. Stay away from the shadows." It made no sense. Why would her grandmother have written that over and over again? Sarah dismissed it as the ramblings of an elderly woman until that night. The first night passed uneventfully, but the forest beyond the house seemed to come alive after dark. The wind whistled through the trees, and strange whispers echoed faintly through the night air. It was faint at first, a whisper, too soft to make out any words. Sarah told herself it was just the wind, but as the night dragged on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. "Who's there?" Sarah called out, but the only response was the whispering, growing louder as if it was moving closer. She looked out the window, but all she saw were shadows dancing in the trees. The next morning, Sarah decided to investigate. She walked to the edge of the forest, standing just beyond the tree line. The whispers had faded with the dawn, but she couldn't shake the eerie feeling that something was watching her. It was then that she noticed something unusual. Footprints, deep, heavy, leading into the forest. They didn't look human, and they certainly didn't belong to any animal she recognized. The footprints vanished into the trees, disappearing into the shadows. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, and for the first time she began to wonder if the whispers weren't just in her mind. That night, the whispers returned, louder, clearer. They seemed to come from the forest, as though the trees themselves were speaking. But this time there was something different. The whispers were calling her name. Determined to confront whatever was haunting her, Sarah stormed outside. She called into the forest, demanding that whoever or whatever was there show itself. At first there was silence. Then out of the shadows it appeared, a figure, tall, dark, and featureless. Its body seemed to melt into the darkness around it, but its presence was undeniable. The whispers grew louder, filling her mind, her ears, until it felt like the entire forest was speaking to her. The figure stepped closer, its form shifting and bending with the shadows. Terrified, Sarah ran back to the house, locking the door behind her. But even inside, the whispers continued, echoing through the walls. It was then that Sarah understood. The shadows weren't just in the forest. They were everywhere, and they wanted her. The final entry in her grandmother's journal was a warning. Once you follow the shadows, you can never escape. Sarah stayed in the house that night, clutching her flashlight as the shadows whispered her name. She knew she couldn't stay there forever, but leaving meant facing the darkness. When the townspeople came to check on Sarah the next day, they found the house empty. There was no sign of struggle, no trace of where she had gone, just her grandmother's journal, left open on the kitchen table. The final page was blank, except for one last message scratched into the wood of the table. They've taken me. Sarah was never seen again. Some say the forest took her, just like the others before her. The shadows still whisper her name, waiting for the next person to follow them. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more spine-chilling tales.